Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brit's Books and Beauty. Today we are going to do our next book review. So just in time for the end of the month, we are going to be reviewing the July book, which was the excellent novel, Even When You Lie to Me. This was by Jessica Alcott. I believe it is a debut novel for her. I picked this up at the dollar store and definitely was immediately intrigued. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So let's kind of talk about the plot first, and then we'll kind of go into thoughts about the book. So the book follows our main character. Her name is Charlie. Full name Charlotte, but she's never felt like a Charlotte. And right away we learn that Charlie is very uncomfortable with herself. She's a typical teenager, trying to grow into herself, and she's lacks confidence, which is not uncommon for young people growing up. Everybody remembers that, right? And her best friend is named Lila, and Lila is just full of confidence. So a little bit of an opposites attract kind of thing. They've been pals since they were kids, and as they've gotten older, they've definitely grown up differently in terms of how they view themselves and how they view their interaction with other people. So Lila is very outgoing and bubbly and seems very confident in herself. As we move forward through the book, we learn that Charlie also has a very interesting relationship with her parents as well. So her parents are happily married. There's not a whole lot of disconnect in the household itself. Charlie just seems to have a much stronger bond with her father than her mother. Her mom is very much like Lila. So very outgoing, bubbly, takes very good care of herself, well-groomed, very, very flawless and attractive. And Charlie has no real connection to her mom. She doesn't really feel like she relates to her. She often feels maybe a little put down by her mom, even though I'm sure none of it's intended. Just a very kind of strained relationship with her mom because she feels like her mom is constantly trying to turn her into a small version of herself. She doesn't feel like her mom accepts her for who she truly is. And she gets that kind of acceptance from her father. So she has a very strong bond with dad. We're headed into senior year for Charlie. The book kind of opens. She and Lila are at the pool. Lila's wearing this cute little bikini and Charlie's like practically wearing a burqa. So right off the bat, huge difference in the two of them. Of course, boys are involved in this opening act essentially. And, Lila's very flirtatious and very like ooh la la. And Charlie almost feels kind of assaulted almost, like verbally. The boys say some really inappropriate things, just really makes her even more uncomfortable and more aware of herself. And so right off the bat, you can just, immediately tell that she's got a weird relationship with other people, very withdrawn, not comfortable. School year opens and Charlie is in English class. There's a new teacher. And his name is Mr. Drummond. And he's young, he's cute. All of the students are, of course, just ooh la laing over him. At first, Charlie doesn't really like him. He seems like he's very a little openly flirtatious with all the students. She's kind of like, I don't know, man, about this new teacher. So at first, she's kind of like, meh. It turns out this teacher is also taking over the newspaper. This year, Charlie's parents decided she needed to join an extracurricular activity. So we're headed towards college applications and things like that. And so her parents decide this is the year she's going to get a little more involved. As you can imagine, our friend Charlie is not an athletic individual. She decides to sign up for newspaper. So again, not only does she have English with this new teacher, now she's going to be joining the newspaper with him as well. She's feeling a little trapped at this point with this new teacher, but what are you going to do? As the story unfolds and moves on, you realize you are reading into these really subtle situations where Charlie starts to feel a little singled out by the teacher. She starts to kind of warm up to him, and he's like trying to make cute little jokes, and try to get her. I think he notices that she's withdrawn and a little uncomfortable, and he tries to single her out and kind of get her talking a little more involved in English class, which immediately This is a male figure of authority who is kind of reaching out and making her a little more comfortable with herself. So there's a little bit of an attachment that's formed because Charlie is kind of getting this vibe for this teacher who's making her a little more comfortable in her own skin. So she starts to like him. Situation that I'm sure occurs all the time. Slowly throughout like their interactions in newspaper, she gets assigned the new teacher article, so it's her job to kind of get to know him a little bit for her article. She starts to like him the more and more she chats with him. Her crush develops a little bit deeper. Her friend Lila thinks he's real cute too, and she's kind of into him. You kind of, as she's interacting with other kids and everyone's kind of chit-chatting, it's very hot and cold. Some kids really like him, some kids really don't. You do notice in his English class he's kind of a little more casual. He allows cursing and he allows students to be very vocal. It's like an English lit class, so they're reading novels and just discussing what they're reading and applying it to real life situations, and it's very critical thinking kind of person. So I think that's another thing that draws Charlie to him, is it's not just read a book, write an essay, read a book, tell me about it. He's really trying to pull answers from people. He's very casual and easy to like. So to have this person who's very cool and everybody likes him, she feels like he's kind of singling her out. It just kind of makes him like him more, that he's intelligent, and she really likes that. So she starts to, over time, find excuses to bump into him, run into him, see him. So she kind of memorizes his routine in terms of school days, and she's like trying to appear in hallways that he's frequents, going from one place to another. And she's trying to kind of wiggle her way in a little bit. Comes a point where she's working with him on the software, I think, of the newspaper. And she finally tells him that, she likes him. Of course, she's not admitting I have a crush on you, but she finally lets him know that she thinks he's cool. She likes him. And he kind of returns the sentiment. So the school dance comes around. Charlie is forced to go by Lila. She doesn't really want to go, but Lila's not really taking a date, so she wants Charlie to go with her. Typical kind of best friend pressure there. Charlie allows Lila to kind of doll her up a little bit, and they go to the dance where Drummond is, chaperoning. She goes over and chats with him, and she's trying to avoid other students, first of all, but she also wanted to make a connection with him at the dance, kind of reaffirm this relationship that they have, because she wants him to ignore all the other students going for, vying for his attention. She wants him to focus on her. She's chatting with him, and he makes a comment about how she should be hanging out with the other students. He's actively trying to get her to disengage and interact with the other students. And she kind of makes a comment about how, you don't think I look pretty, or some sort of thing like that, where she was trying to bait him into inappropriately complimenting her. And he was kind of like, I can't really answer that question or, talk to you about that. So she gets really upset and runs away. Of course, Lila follows her, and Charlie's like, I want to leave. I'm bouncing. I'm out. Lila, of course, gets pissed, and so they kind of have a little bit of a blow up at the dance. So this is where you first kind of realize that the teacher is aware that she kind of has a thing for him, and he was actively trying to have her engage with students her own age. So they kind of butt heads a little bit there, because she was clearly asking for something he couldn't give her. Eventually she goes, the time moves on. Lila and Charlie make up as best friends do. So things in class are a little awkward. She obviously knows that what she did was stupid. So she's trying to get that kind of sense of comfort back. And it's a little bit of a choppy start, but things kind of, get back to normal. And Christmas vacation comes. Of course, Lila's in her home and Charlie's in her home. So they, she's missing that connection, that really deep connection of friendship. She obviously feels a little trapped at home because of her strained relationship with her mom. So Charlie on Christmas morning gets this beautiful gift of stunning novels, thinking that her mom has just gotten her this really amazing gift. She finally understands how she feels. And then underneath the gift is this backhanded kind of Christmas gift of a spa day. So mom really wants to have a spa day with Charlie. So this just kind of makes Charlie feel like she's not really the daughter her mom wanted her to be. So this upsets her already. And then dad gets mom a Christmas gift of a trip to, I want to say Hawaii, without Charlie. So she wasn't involved. Charlie didn't get a ticket. The dad promises mom this nice lavish gift. As soon as Charlie goes off to college, we'll go on a nice trip, just the two of us. Mom is of course thrilled, and Charlie just feels backstabbed. She just is extremely upset. Her dad just got her mom this gift. She wasn't invited. Oh, now she's a burden. So Charlie is a typical teenager, reading way more into this thing than she should. Flips out. So she, of course, tries to get hold of Lila. No, I think they kind of talk it out a little bit, but it's not really the comfort, therapy session she was looking for. Life moves forward, time moves on, and school's back in session. There comes a time where at this point Charlie's really comfortable with Mr. Drummond, and she kind of feels like he's reciprocating feelings that he's not saying. So they've reestablished that really strong bond. That sense of comfort is back post Christmas vacation. They're working late on the newspaper one day. They're tired. Of course, again, they've got that really comfortable friendship going. So for some strange reason, Mr. Drummond thinks it's a good idea to answer any question that Charlie may ask him. And of course, one of the questions that she finally gets to, so she's asking him weird questions about his personal life, his past dating history, things that, we are delving into now this is starting to be kind of weird situation. The teacher is answering, inappropriate questions, things he knows he shouldn't. And so Charlie naturally goes to the "do you like me" or "do you think I'm beautiful" question, where she definitely is overstepping a bound. She's asking basically how he feels about her. And his response, of course, is, again, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. That's definitely pushing the line. So he was willing to answer questions about himself, his past history, all under the pretense that, of course, it's for the article. But he draws the line at her, asking him specifically how he feels about her. She gets really upset. It's an awkward interaction. She goes home. Things are tense again. A little strained in the classroom. Their personal relationship is strained again. Time goes by. She's driving around running errands and sees his car at the community center where he likes to swim. She goes inside and sees him swimming, and she's like, okay, this was stupid. Like, is he going to stop swimming to talk to me? Whatever. So she goes out and she's in her car texting or getting ready to get into her car, and she sees him come out. She decides she sees him come out and start smoking. So thinks that she has some sort of opinion on that would matter to him. So she runs up to him and is like, what are you doing? He takes her to lunch. So not necessarily inappropriate, but certainly strange, especially since we know that there are feelings happening here. So he takes her to lunch. The lunch is very innocent. Nothing, there's no inappropriateness happening. And as we start to head towards the end of the year, Charlie gets accepted into the college that he went to. So I just feel like that's another thing that bonded them together. And then the senior trip comes, and he is a chaperone for the senior trip. And of course, what's happening on the senior trip? All kinds of inappropriateness between students. Alcohol is discovered. Because of the tension between him and Charlie, and him feeling lonely because he's an adult with no partner, and he knows there's this young girl who has a thing for him. For some strange reason, and this was never really explained in the book what his decision for that process behind it was, that Mr. Drummond decides to drink the alcohol he's confiscated from the students. Lila, to be specific. Not very surprising there. And Charlie went to discuss with him whether or not Lila was going to get in trouble, because she obviously wanted to protect her friend who was just trying to have a good time. So he opens the door. He's intoxicated, which makes him think that his decisions are sound. And he allows her into his room. Nothing inappropriate happened. They just lie down next to each other on a bed. So there's no inappropriateness in terms of actions, but some words are exchanged. Like, at this point, he's kind of admitting that he's got this thing for her, and obviously he can't do anything about it. So she is kind of aware that he's kind of reciprocating the feelings. Nothing is exchanged between them other than words of inappropriateness. At this point, we're still technically in legal bounds. They come back from the trip. Things are definitely a little bit different between them because of the openness now of the feelings and the reciprocated feelings. Everything comes to a head on Charlie's 18th birthday. So Charlie turns 18. Lila, being her best friend, wants to throw her this big bash and really celebrate it. And really what it turns into is Lila invited a bunch of popular people that Charlie doesn't know to her birthday. So Lila was throwing this big bash under the pretense of it being for Charlie, and in reality, it didn't really feel like for Charlie at all. So Charlie, of course, is very upset. Her best friend threw this bash and she didn't even pay any attention to her. Like, Lila was basically just hanging with popular people and her boyfriend. So Charlie, upset, in a huff, leaves her own party and goes to Drummond's house, where things get physical. Things happen at the house, not any irreparable damage, if you know what I'm saying, but stuff happens. Physical touch has certainly, we've crossed that line at this point. Moving forward, she says some things that really makes him think, and he realizes that he can't stay in his job. He can't stay at that school. He can't stay at his job because of the situation. Even though she's a legal adult, he's still her teacher. Very inappropriate, very much not okay. So he leaves and Charlie graduates. He does come to the graduation just to make sure she's okay and to say essentially say goodbye. And everything kind of ends on an okay note. I mean, she knows that she crossed a line as well. So that's kind of where the story ends. I don't really feel like that there was any real happy ending for this. I will have to say that my feelings on the book are very mixed. I do think it was a good book, written very well. I like the book. It was easy to read. You know, you're basically just following the turmoil of a typical teenager. So certainly more in the like preteen, teenage category in terms of reading. Even as an adult, though, I found it entertaining. It is a good quality reading as a 28-year-old. No, did it make my brain crumble with all of the, crazy elaborateness of it? No, but it was certainly entertaining. It was almost like a little soap opera. However, I did not like that the soap opera was taking place between a teacher and a student that was reciprocated. I do think that it would have been far more entertaining if it was not reciprocated, if the teacher was like, there's this psycho girl who likes me and I can't get her off my back. I think that would have been a far more entertaining book than to have the teacher reciprocate the feelings and then be like, oh, I'm a bad person. So I feel like it could have been a little bit better from a reader standpoint. Could have been a little more interesting. I do like that the teacher waited until she was 18 to do anything physical with her. I don't like that it reached that point at all. I feel like previous statement wise, if they had changed the nature of the book to be an unrequited love, that might have been a little more interesting, added a little more flavor. If the teacher had to get the parents involved and it was this big thing, like, I think that could have been a different novel altogether that could have been as equally interesting, if not more. I don't like that it just followed like a Lifetime movie thing where you got the student teacher affair. Like, it just felt too Lifetimey for me. Definitely recommending the book. I think it was still a good book when all is said and done. It just wasn't, it's definitely not in my top 5. So if you're looking for an easy book to read during this time, I absolutely think it's worth it. I purchased it at the dollar store. I can put a link in the description of the video so that you guys can order it and read it if you would like. That's pretty much all I have to say about the book. I was a solid couple weeks of reading that was fairly entertaining. So we'll just leave it at that. The next book that we'll be reading, if you are following along and reading with me or interested at all, is The Dynamite Room. So this is what I'm reading next. This is also a dollar store find. This is by Jason Hewitt. So I'm pretty excited to get started on that. I think this is kind of a historical fiction novel. I don't know too much about it. I'm the kind of person that just goes into the dollar store to the book section and I just kind of read a snippet of what it's about and grab it. My philosophy is if I read it and hate it, I'll just donate it to Goodwill or a thrift store of some sort. If I read it and love it, then I paid $1 for a novel that I'm really fascinated by. So again, next book is going to be The Dynamite Room. I'll leave links for this one and Even When You Lie to Me, so that if you wanted to read along with me, this will be our August book. And I just want to thank you guys for joining me today for another book review. So book review number 2, we're on a roll. And if you're brand new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. It's wonderful to have you here. If you are interested in books and beauty, books or beauty, you don't have to watch all of my videos. Go ahead and like and subscribe. And if you think that you have people in your world that might enjoy the content, don't forget to share with those people. If you are a returning viewer, thanks for coming back and hanging in there, my dudes. Appreciate it. And I'll see you guys at my next video. Bye.